feel like Kobe in the fourth quarter.
This is the Day More NBA podcast. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. Coming in Monday morning, it's December 29th. And coming up on today's show, I will be joined by Jace to talk a bit about the Wolves' loss to Brooklyn on Saturday night and just what went into that game. I was not at the game. I had a wedding on Saturday that I attended, but Jace was there. So we'll use his perspective from Target Center, from the locker room, to discuss what the players had to say about that loss and just sort of the way that they lost that game. I'm in on this three bigs thing. It's my Wolves thing that's kind of scratching at my brain right now. I know Kyle and I talked about the idea of playing Gobert, Reid, and Randle all together. I think in the last episode, I've had some more time to think about why I think playing all three bigs at the same time makes some sense for this team. Maybe kind of think it's something they might go to more often, just given what we've seen the first couple months of the season. So I don't know. I just want to talk through it with Jace a little bit. I'm not sure it's going to fix the Wolves' issues that they've had in the front court, but I don't think anything should be off the table with this team when it comes to discussing the front court rotation, because the Reid and Randle minutes, while really good on offense, when Gobert's not out there with them, it's just really not feeling like something that's going to work, at least to the scale that they're being played at thus far this season. So I don't know. I think Jace might think my idea is dumb, but I'm curious to see what he thinks on this. Maybe it's a dumb half measure, but we talked about how just they could handle this with Baron J coming up, maybe trading for a big, those sort of things. I think it's important to have the three bigs conversation before you start playing Baron J or before you trade for some sort of backup big. So yeah, that's the plan today. Talk about the Brooklyn loss, run this three bigs thought by Jace, and then maybe talk a little bit more about the Christmas Day game against Denver. I'm sure it'll be all that and more coming up with Jace. Let's go. All right, we are now joined by Wolves beat writer Jace Frederick, and I want to just start with what the locker room was like and what was said after the Wolves' home loss to Brooklyn on Saturday. I'm curious, one, because it's a game I was not there for, and you were, but two, because I'm kind of curious, like what the vibe was. I've been in the locker room for a bunch of games this season after the Wolves have messed up something late in the game, and all the conversation is on, well, if we would have approached this one or two possessions differently, it's totally the game's result is different. We win. We know we can do those. We know we can make that late game decision better. That's been so many of the quote unquote excuses after a game. This loss to Brooklyn was not just something went wrong in the last couple of minutes of the game. It was a pretty thorough beat down from a Brooklyn team who's definitely better than, and we'll talk about that too, definitely better than I thought going into that game, and not been plugged in on the Brooklyn Nets over the past few weeks. But it felt like a loss that, had a lot of issues for the Wolves and highlighted some season-long issues. So I'm curious, what the vibe was like in there and what guys had to say in the quotes that they gave you, those of you who were there after the game on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was mostly annoyed. Annoyed of they just didn't. They could tell that like they didn't bring it. They weren't like that. They were out hustled. They were out executed. All of it. And part of that is a lot easier to happen when you don't bring your best game. And I think that I talked about this, especially with Dante. You could even tell though, like Ant was like, "Yeah, I don't know, give the same answers we always give." I guess like, what did Finchie say? I'll say that. Like, we'll get the same answers as always. Like, oh, we did it again. And he kind of recognized that. And I will say, I just want to start with the Ant thing. A lot of people take into that, oh, I guess that's just Timberwolves basketball, and oh, this guy wants out. He wants to leave or whatever. Like, I promise you, Ant said that and then walked out and didn't think another second about it. Yeah, sure, probably annoyed. Everybody was annoyed. But that was the extent of it. Of like, yeah, we know we need to fix this. And yeah, we know we've said we need to fix it about 10 times. That was basically kind of what everybody was feeling. And yeah, we don't have an answer on how to fix it right now because it shouldn't still be happening. Dante talked about this a lot because it was easy to specifically bring up, hey, after you guys beat the Thunder in this building, you talked about, how scrappy and energetic and like all the loose balls, all that stuff, moving the ball, being defensively disciplined that you guys were, and that's who you need to be. And obviously that's who Brooklyn was on Saturday. And it was not who the Timberwolves were. And he's like, yeah, that's who Brooklyn is. That's who they are. Like, and because they know if they don't do that, they're going to get blown out. So that's who they are. He's like, and that's who we sometimes do, but that's not who we are right now. And it's true. Like, that's Brooklyn played a really good brand of basketball. They moved the ball, they shared it, they played with pace whenever the potential to do so was there. They were super locked in on their defensive game plan. Both like from like the coaching perspective, but also just like guys on the court communicating. Like it was like on a string defense, and that's how you have terrible defensive personnel, I think, in a lot of spots in their lineups, and great defense for this last month. Like, I think that just shows what team defense can be. But they were really locked into it across the board, and Minnesota just wasn't from any way, shape, or form. And it's just annoying, I think, for Minnesota of even if Brooklyn plays that well, you know, you have such a significant talent advantage that if you also play well, you will win that game. And instead it was the Wolves who didn't do that stuff. And so they, by the end of the game, got blown out. Like, they were outplayed all game. They just shot the ball from three really well in the first half. And they could just, you know, it's just it was like, yeah, we're supposed to be the team that plays well every night, and we didn't. And we don't. And that, I think, was kind of a realization of, yeah, we just don't do that. And kind of at a loss for answers for it, because it is like, we get asked these questions a lot, and not even saying they're wrong questions. It's just, yep, we did it again. That was basically the vibe of it.
So they're not knowing what the fix is. What do we think the fix is? Like,
I don't know.
What do they do to have it be, 90% of the time that there's the requisite effort, and 90% of the time we aren't asking these questions after the game that say all the things you just said? Like, I don't know. My answer is so often like try to be like a basketball thing or like personnel or something like that. I'm kind of stuck when it's.
I don't think the Wolves are player led, to be honest. I don't. I think we see so often that it's like, oh, why did you play well? Oh, Finchie really got into us. Oh, Finchie did this. Oh, this happened. Like, he really, like, we should have seen the film session yesterday. You should have heard him after the last game. You should have heard him at halftime. This is not a player led basketball team. It hasn't been. Like, there's never like anybody like the accountability of, we need to do this. We need to be this. I don't think that exists frequently enough at all in this team. Like, I think it requires such desperate times for them to do that, to where, like, I don't know, like, maybe you do need like a Kyle Anderson there, like, not pushing somebody, but being like, what do you, like, let's go here. Like, you aren't answering this bell. You aren't doing this. We're not doing this. Like, I don't see a lot of that. You don't see that on the bench. You don't see like a little bit more fire out of them sometimes from anybody else of like being really stand up vocal about it and kind of demanding better. I don't think we see enough of that. And that's where I think it's like, are those personalities on this team? Are enough of those personalities on this team? Because there's a lot of guys who say and do the right things, and they're pretty quiet. Like, I don't know, like, we hear Rudy say that stuff all the time. Like, is he sitting there like post game? We need to do this. We need to do this. Is he demanding it? Like, is he taking charge of the team? He leads by example a lot of times with these things. But I just don't know if there's that real leadership at the forefront. We need to do this better and this better on this team. And if there's not that, then I think you are going to have more inconsistency, because how many times can the coach come in and yell and scream and whatever?
Yeah, there's different types of leadership, right? Like, there's the leadership of a coach, there's the leadership of the best player, and then there's, which is very common, I think, across the league for like kind of keeping things within the bumpers. It's like veteran leadership within the group, and even bad teams. Like, that's why a bad team will have Garrett Temple be their 14th man, like that sort of thing. I don't think that type of veteran leadership stuff has as much teeth or push or pull or however you want to put it when the guy doesn't play, though.
Right.
And you talk about Kyle Anderson from a couple of years ago. He played. Mike Conley didn't play, against Brooklyn, and Mike's not playing well this season. Like, I get why he's not playing. Joe Ingles, those guys are veteran leaders who are not good enough at this stage in their career to be playing as many minutes per game as Kyle Anderson did a couple years ago when he was on the floor leader. Like, the vets of the guys who play are Julius and Rudy, and they're the only guys in their 30s, right? And I'm kind of with you with Rudy that, like, that's just not really his leadership style, or his leadership style doesn't seem to like hit the group in the way that leads to change.
And like, it's not like this is a bunch of like 21-year-olds like at the Wizards or something. Like, these are established players largely across the Wolves. Like, yeah, you can go to the end of the bench and say, well, 7, 8, 9, or whatever, but 1 through 6, like, it's a lot of guys who'd be like, I've been in this league a long time. I think I know what I'm doing here. So it's not like they're like the veteran talks and they're like, well, I'll defer to you. I don't know what's going on. Like, oh, we need to do this. Okay. So I think it largely has to be like from that group of best players holding everybody accountable and themselves accountable and being, I think they kind of need both of like example and verbal. Like, I'm doing it, you need to do it.
Yeah.
By action, I'm doing it, and then I need to also be telling you I'm doing it. You need to do it. So it's. I think that has to be the case, and there has to be more like mid-game callouts and whatnot. Because how many times do we go, "Hey, offense was stagnant," and they're like sitting there post-game going, "Yeah, offense was stagnant." And it's like, well, what? Why don't you fix it? Like, there's so much of a, yeah, the ball got sticky. Yeah, we did this. Yeah, we did that. And that it just takes place the whole game. And it's like, where is somebody to step up in the middle of it and go, guys, we got.
No, we're doing this.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, we're doing this right now. We're doing this. We're running this set, like whatever. And yes, like the coach can play into that for sure. But like I said, like, too often, it's like every example you can think of, like the past 3 years of, wow, the Wolves really turned a corner. It's because of like a Finch film session, a Finch yelling at him at halftime, whatever. It's never just like, very rarely, if ever, or do we hear the stories of, well, Jaden came in and just like lit us up.
Right.
I mean, like, and maybe that's a weird example or whatever, but like, anybody,
no. Yeah.
Anybody, like that, that doesn't. Oh, remember when like they sucked that one year to start the 21-22 season? And the story was, it was Patrick Beverley who came around and asked every single person to their face, what's your role? What's your role? What's your role? And that is that's maybe the last team that I truly felt, and like they've achieved high things. I don't mean this as like a major like slap in the face or anything, but that team truly like overachieved, I think, of their talent, like how many games they won that year and whatnot. And I think there was like real player leadership. And I think maybe like a Pat Bev one where like he can really like rub you the wrong way over time. So maybe that's not like more than a 1-year solution, but somebody, a player, maybe in a more consistent manner, whatever, leading charge on that, I think does get the best out of you. And I think they need to find a way or find somebody or whatever to develop more of it, because I just don't think it exists.
Yeah. And so I think who we're honing the scope on is Ant, Jaden, and Nas to be the guys who would be that,
sure.
to step
for
up
the long term
in that sort of
for the long term health of the organization. Like, those are guys are going to be here for a long time, ideally or whatever. I think the plan. So ideally, it's them who I guess are stepping up and saying, this is what, not saying, I guess that's Timberwolves basketball. I guess turning around and going, no, this is Timberwolves basketball. And this is the standard. And this is what we do almost every night. Or at least to the best of our abilities each night, whether we have it or not. That needs to be established.
Yeah, and I don't mean this to give Ant like a full pass. I do think, though, that some of this idea is a little new to Ant, and he hasn't really been expected to be that guy. You go the 21-22 season, Pat Bev there, even, the kind of subsequent years there was, Cat was at least still here, and Ant was very willing to cede some of that leadership element to him, and Kyle Anderson's on that team, and Ant just, that wasn't his role. Like, it just, when Ant was 22 years old, like that wasn't his role. And I don't think there was anything wrong with Ant not doing that. And then Mike comes in, now you have another one, and Mike is 35 or whatever at the time and able to impact the game and be a leader in that sort of way. And then it's kind of like the last year where it just changed. And a lot of those other pieces are obviously Carl's gone. Mike Conley's not in the rotation anymore. And it does feel like Ant would be obviously the best place to get it from. I'm just not sure he has that muscle like fully trained yet. Which isn't necessarily like an indictment. I mean, you could go year 6 and he's not stepping up in this sort of way, that sort of way. I still think he could. I just don't know if he knows how to do that exactly. And some of doing it is him being an energy guy night to night or more nights, and not having some of those things. But I think part of the lack of the player-led leadership is the younger guys not stepping up in that way yet. And I kind of get why they aren't, because they haven't really been, that hasn't been their role or really been asked to do that before. Same for Jaden and Nas as well there. But I think that's, if we're talking about what changes, like what could change to make this not be something in the future, I think it would be getting more comfortable in that role.
Yeah, and so much of it is like being comfortable in leading and like doing the right things. Because I say this, like, game 3 of the Thunder when they blow them out in the West Finals, like, who set the tone in that first quarter? It was Ant, and he didn't even didn't need to do it the rest of the game. I mean, he wasn't like turned on all game running around 100 miles an hour on defense, but he did it for like the first 6 minutes, and it set the tone for the whole thing. And then I think maybe he can also be the one where it's like, we don't have it right now, like second quarter or whatever, I'm going to have one of those bursts, and it's going to set the table for the rest of the game. So he has that ability of like, you can't do it all game. I don't expect Ant to come out and be like the best defensive player in the NBA and like have the biggest offensive burden for 36, 38 minutes. But the times where, especially on the nights where it's like, I don't think we have it, can you muster it up to generate it for 3 minutes, or 4 minutes? And it's like an 8-0 run where you had 4 points and assist and a steal and 3 rebounds or whatever. Like, and it's like, oh, now you lit the flame, and this team is talented enough where once the flame's lit, like it tends to stay lit.
It's the OKC game, man.
Yeah,
OKC
yeah, exactly.
Game, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, basically every time they play like one of those types of opponents, all of his high rebounding totals are against those great teams. And that's fine. That's great. Like, that's great. You want to be like a riser up to the competition. But I think part of like being a leader then is also, hey, we don't have it right now tonight against a lesser team. I need to have that same urgency just for a bit, just to get us on track, because it's my team. It's my responsibility to make sure that we're playing up to our standards. So if we're below it, I have to provide the juice or the boost to get us up to it. Then after we have that timeout, like we go on that 8-0 run, other team calls the timeout. Now I go in the huddle and maybe light some guys up of like, we have to keep the rolling. This is who we need to be, blah, blah, blah. This is who we are. Can't accept less than this, whatever. Like, and I agree with you. That is new, of like, he has not really been in a position where, or maybe it's just been easy to not. And I don't think they've pushed it on too much because of who else has been around.
Or it's been situational. It's been situational. I don't think Ant's like not done this. I don't think it's not like Ant hasn't come and lit guys up. Or whatever on the bench in the way that you're saying, but it's not at like a super high cadence, I think is what we're trying to point at. And that has to just come from somebody. It seems like that has to come from somebody. If you're a team that has consistent energy issues and you're stating that you consistently have energy and focus and commitment to details, stuff like that, that's the stuff that somebody tells somebody like, yo, we gotta do this, and that's not consistent either.
Yeah, it can't just ring hollow. Like, it can't. It's great to say it too, but I really think like the whole point of it is like, he's got to have like 2 minutes of it, so he can go to the bench and be like, I just did it, where it can't be like, come on guys, what's going on? Like at halftime, and they'd be like, you haven't done a single thing this game. Like, you've been maybe like one of the top people like contributing to the issue here. Like, you have to like, even if you see that in yourself, go, okay, I need to change it a little bit here. Not like I need to do it all game, but I need to get it started. And then I can then have a platform to go, come on, let's go. Here we go.
Come with me.
Yes, exactly. Right. And then they can maybe take it from there because this team has guys who are good enough to take it from there. But I think that all plays into it. I've been trying to figure out otherwise, like who it could be. And the people the guy who talks the most on the court, who I think says the most right things after like the game, is often Dante lately on this team. But I think it would just be so much more impactful if it was like an Ant, or even like, it doesn't seem like Jade's personality, but like somebody of that caliber who's going to have, those two are going to like lead the team in minutes in like their biggest games, assuming foul trouble isn't in play, that kind of stuff. I think it'd be one of those two specifically. I know Nas is in that age group and everything, but like in terms of high impact, both ways can really change the game. Like Jaden, Ant, a combination of the two, whatever. Like, I think that's where you hit like your ceiling as a team in terms of like just overall playing consistency.
Let's talk a little bit about like what went down in the game and how Brooklyn, took advantage, the ways in which Brooklyn kind of took advantage of the approach that the Wolves had. And like we said, Brooklyn, played really well in this game and has played really well in December, back healthy. Clearly some good coaching going on over there. And I'm the note that kept coming up for me in my notes was they're picking them apart. They're picking them apart. And whether that was whenever Cam Thomas was in the game, or wasn't it 46 points in the first half that they gave up?
Yeah.
In that one, I'm like, that's because you're picking it apart. You're picking apart what the coverage was. And then I go, okay, why is the coverage being picked apart? What is happening that there ends up being just these huge gaps of space for a player to isolate, to cut, to whatever? What is leading to a coverage breakdown? And normally the coverage breakdowns like happen on the backside off of rotation. Julius is late to come over. Rudy's hesitant coming over. Ant isn't there, whatever it might be. But I think what always precipitates that is a lack of ball containment. And when they lack ball containment, that's what gets them into this rotation that gets things spinning off sideways. But it's always the low energy games like this one where the ball containment is the lowest. And I think, internally in those games, and whether it's maybe rotation shifts or whatever, if it is a low energy game and you are not having ball containment in that game, the only way you're going to be able to get back into the game and not be catastrophically destroyed defensively is to play guys who are containing the ball and just not making the offense so easy to start there. The issue is I'm not sure this team has fewer ball containment guys that they can rely on there. So it makes it so it's easy. It's kind of easy for the opponent if they can take advantage of this guy. There's not really like, okay, Nikhil, you come over, you take this one.
Right.
I just think the core issue is ball containment in these games, and the ball containment is clearly correlated to energy deficiency. The lack of ball containment is correlated to energy deficiency for this team. And so I don't really know what the answer is there other than like, you just got to do it, or these teams who are playing sharp are just going to beat you. Like I don't have like a complex solution outside of that. Today's show is brought to you by Falling Knife Brewing Company, and I think you should think about going to watch the Wolves-Hawks game on New Year's Eve at Falling Knife. It's a 2 p.m. tip-off, and I think a great way to start your New Year's celebrating. As always, the sound will be on, and the game will be on the projection screens and TVs in the tap room. I get if getting to Falling Knife for normal 7 p.m. tip-offs is a little bit tricky with kids or other nighttime responsibilities, but this is a 2 p.m. start on a holiday, and I think it'd be a fun way to spend your New Year's Eve. Also, if you're trying to make a full day out of it, Falling Knife is also doing a New Year's Eve party. I've heard me talking about it. It's actually called New Year's Early. The party starts at 6 p.m., not long after the Wolves game will have finished. They do the ball drop at 8 p.m. and celebrate the new year a little early so you can get home a little bit earlier. And then the party is over at 10 p.m. I think it's a great way to spend New Year's Eve. It's all you can eat, all you can drink at the party for $90. You can find that link to purchase tickets in the show notes below. Make Falling Knife part of your New Year's Eve for the Wolves game at 2 o'clock or the party at 6 o'clock, or get crazy, maybe do both. That's Falling Knife Brewing Company in Northeast Minneapolis. Today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks, and because the Wolves play the Bulls this evening, you can make a Prize Picks lineup tonight off of that game. I was just looking at it. Some picks I like. I think it's going to be a big Naz Reid game. I like him to have more than 1.5 made threes. So I think he'll make 2 or more threes in this game. You could, if you don't want to go threes, Naz's number is also 13.5 points. You could go more than 13.5 points for him in this game. And then I was just clicking around. I thought this one was fun. Matas Buzelis to have more than 0.5 dunks in this game. I think Buzelis will have a dunk against the Wolves. Head over to Prize Picks, find some picks you like from the Wolves-Bulls game, and put yourself together a Prize Picks lineup for the game. If you don't yet have a Prize Picks account, all you have to do is put in the promo code DANE when you sign up, and you will receive $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com or the Prize Picks app using promo code DANE.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, like their only solution is what pinched it in the second half, which is like play more zone. But like you've said many times, that's a Band-Aid. It's not a fix. Like you can't be like, hey, we're not playing defense tonight. Let's just go zone. Like, I mean, there has to be the ball contain has to be more consistent, and it's not. And that's like, I know like sometimes it can almost get nauseating in my own head of talking about the difference between like 2 years ago and now, but it's a big one of like their ball contain was really good on a night-to-night basis. And yes, part of that was personnel, but a lot of it was also want to. And maybe like the personnel set a tone that everybody else made everybody else want to, and that doesn't exist now. But it's very up and very down. Like you can see all the games where they want to do it, and then they do it. But then you see a lot of these ones where it's like, nope, nobody's doing it. And then like Cam Thomas gets out there, and even like the best defenders, it's like Cam Thomas is still getting wherever he wants to go. Oftentimes maybe out of pick and roll or whatever, but he's really good. And that was an interesting one because he hadn't played since November 5th or something with the hamstring. This is his first game back. And if you look at like national narrative on Cam Thomas, it's been that he's a chucker. And that's true, I think. But I really do think that his time with this coaching staff has like helped him. They've done a better job having him pick his spots. And we haven't had a chance to see it like on full display this year, but that was a really good example of like, yeah, he took a lot of shots and he closed the game late. And to me, that was like perfect basketball of they really like spread it around nonstop. But then when the lead was starting to slip away late, they're like, all right, Cam gets in there and just basically does it all himself for those last like few buckets that just sucked the life out of Minnesota in the middle of a comeback. It was like, I think that's about it. And what they've done though is like Thomas also was playing like within their offense when he was succeeding earlier in the game. And defensively, he was putting in an effort, doing all these things where like this guy's playing on a QO, right? Like I'm pretty sure he just like signed the qualifying offer and restricted free agency because they didn't want to pay him because they're not sure if he fits into what they want to be. And what they want to be is who they've been for this last month, like play the right way of basketball. Guys who can move the ball, everybody can play off the catch, everybody can be a shooting threat, and then we defend disciplined. They're a really young, well-coached team. They're like, how does this guy who is clearly like an isolation scorer and views himself as that fit into it? That's like a pretty good mix, I think, for teams to follow in general. But
that's good coaching too, man.
It is, but I agree with also some commentary on there of like, okay, Cam Thomas is not a QO. He doesn't have a leg to stand on right now. Like you want to play, right? Like, and how are you going to play? And that's also his first game back in 2 months. Like I said, if you don't play and then you go into free agency, like what kind of deal you think you're getting? Like you are at the team's mercy right now. And all these other young guys, very easy to take them in and out of the rotation if you want. If you want to play, you're going to play the way we want to play. You just see, I think, what it looks like when the coaches really have like the autonomy of like what it is. Like they're not beholden to any players for any reason, status, money, whatever. It's like, nope, you're going to play our brand of basketball. You're not going to play. And you see the results. This is a team that 40% of its rotation on Saturday was rookies. And they have the second best defense in the NBA this month. I think the best defense in the NBA this month, the second best net rating in the NBA in December. And it's the 29th. They're playing this they're 7-3. Like that to me they're like an eye-opening thing of like, oh, they don't have defensive personnel. We talk about how the Wolves don't. No. They don't. And and you would not have said, oh, Michael Porter Jr. Yeah, no, he's on a team that has one of the best defenses in the NBA. Like, but it's like if you just play basketball the right way, you see the results it can be. But then I also think it's interesting of like, but you still need a guy, a bucket getter like a Cam Thomas, who against a good team when they're trying to tighten the screws, he can be the one who puts it away. Like there is a balance there. Brooklyn, I think Saturday showed how you strike it. But I just think like that's a big thing of like, the status thing and, you got to let these guys do that. It's like, but if everybody just falls in line, you can get a lot out of the product, and that's a credit to Brooklyn. But I think their roster construction also matters a lot too. Like it's a really great marriage of it right now.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great point. Like the main guy on the next good Brooklyn Nets team probably isn't Cam Thomas, but theoretically, if it's the next good Brooklyn team and it's his coach and it's within a couple of years, it's like they're playing this way and they folded in some star player to play within this context and be a better version of Cam Thomas, like you're talking about there. And that probably won't work because that is hard to do.
Yes.
It's hard. You know what I'm saying? Like
I agree.
It's hard to get that guy who's going to do it. And what's kind of talking about with Ant some too. It's like there's parallels to be made there as well.
Sure.
And Ant being so much better than Cam Thomas makes the Wolves so much better than Brooklyn, in the big picture. And Ant sometimes does fold himself into it really well. And that's when the Wolves are awesome and beating an Oklahoma City team like they did last week. But it's like at the core of being a really good team in today's NBA is having enough talent and top end talent on your team that also fits into a group. I mean, that's the Thunder. That's the Nuggets. I felt like last year, like that was the Cavs were really like that and profited.
Yeah, you're right.
Boston has been that, like it's having the star caliber players within the context of a team who is, the line we've been using all year is like, can this Wolves team be better than the sum of its parts or even as good as the sum of its parts? And
Wolves 2 years ago were that too, frankly.
Exactly.
Like they were defensive based, and like Ant and Cat up to that point weren't. And Ant, I think even we've seen it dip off a little bit. Like he pulls it out when it's time in his mind to do it. But those guys defended much more consistently that year. Like they really folded themselves into the identity. We always think it's like offensive based, but they really folded themselves into that and bought into that. So I think that played into it as well.
Yeah. I mean, we could keep talking about different things for the Nets game, but what I sent you in the email, I want to talk about the three bigs lineup. And I just want to talk through it. I don't know exactly how I feel about it, but one thing I know I feel strongly about with this team, and I think the recognition is there from the coaching staff as well, even if the rotation hasn't really changed much, is that the Reid-Randle lineup, the minutes when Reid and Randle are out there and Rudy is not, are untenable against good teams. And periodically that group has had success. We talk about some zone things that they've done across the course of the season. That group scores a lot offensively when Julius and Naz are the 4 and the 5 out there. But as we've moved through the cupcake portion of the schedule, and I think gotten to see the Wolves against more challenging opponents that have more talent on those teams and are more able to kind of poke holes in the Wolves, like that hole is getting poked consistently. And it's frankly just like a tough watch. Like those minutes when it's Naz and Julius out there and heavily relied upon to defend in those spots, it's just, I'm kind of done with it. Like, I don't think that can be, what did I send you in the email? That group's, they played 420 minutes this season with Naz on, Julius on, and Gobert off the floor. Like, it's a lot. That play that group a lot.
That can't, I mean, you often, if you think about it, like,
right.
Yeah. Right.
And so that's what has me looking at some weird half measure of, should we play all three of them together, and go Rudy at the 5, Julius at the 4, Naz at the 3. I think that's a way to keep all of them playing 30 plus minutes a night while breaking up the Reid and Randle minutes, where it's just the two of them out there. I've got a couple more things, but do you get where I'm coming at from this of using the three big lineup to make sure you're still playing those guys all 30 minutes a night, because those guys should all play 30 minutes a night. They're 3 of the 5 best players on the team, but in a different pattern and a shift to the rotation where it is not 15 minutes a night that you're playing out there with Naz and Julius in the front court by themselves. Do you think the three bigs lineup is a pathway for that, to get away from that?
Only if, and you put this in the doc, and that's where I thought it made sense, because we've talked about this even at other times privately. If you actually acquire a backup center, I think then it makes sense. Otherwise, I don't. I mean, otherwise you talk about this like, oh, they're playing 30, they're playing together. It's like, okay, but Rudy's not going to play 15 to 18 minutes of this game. So at some point, there has to be a non-center out there. So I like this as a possible solution. I still don't know, because like every time we watch Naz in isolation, it's horrific. He ended up on Cam Thomas a couple times, and it was like Cam Thomas picking what move he wanted to get a layup on. And so I don't
Get
I
low,
really,
Nas. Get
yeah,
low.
yeah,
He's
I agree
so
with you.
upright.
Right, right. And I get that that's hard at your size or whatever, but I agree with you on that. And
Mhm.
so I just don't know if Nas defensively can hold up at the 3 at all. But
Fair.
we've seen it. It
Fair.
struggled at other spots. Anyway, but so that's where it's like, okay, that's my only like qualm in general with the 3 big lineup. But if you get a backup big, if you're like, hey, we see this as a must, like got to have another center out there for when Rudy's not out there. Or if it's going to be like more of a 4-ish, a much more defensive 4-ish guy than
Robert Williams or something like that.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. And like anybody who
whatever.
fits into that kind of bucket for 15 minutes or whatever to make sure your defense doesn't fall off a cliff. Where are you going to get those minutes from? And I think that if you went the 3 big route, that helps you be like, and you say you didn't trade obviously Nas or Julius or whoever in that deal. This is where how you can make it all work and still have those guys not like, oh, now they're playing 24 minutes a game, because that's really tough. And I don't know if the Wolves could go that route. So that's where I think if you could get even more data on that over the next like 2 or 3 weeks, whatever, even if it means you have to go really small in the other times. Oh, Jaden and Julius is our 4 or 5, whatever. Like,
dude, that's what I'm saying. That I think is why not? Why not? You could shift the rotation.
Get data on the 3-man and go, does this work? Can we do some of this? Because then that does free up that you can just trade for a backup big and play all of them, together. And then you go, no, we actually have data that can work, versus making the trade and then being like, guess we got to try this 3 big thing. I would much rather have the data, take the lumps or whatever that come with it. Knowing that this next month is your only time for trial and error. I mean,
that's kind of my biggest point of it. And I will say he's starting to play it more. It's still not very often, but
how much are they at? I know you sent this to me, but how much have we seen?
Well, I've been saying more than previous seasons. It's only been 55 possessions of non-garbage time, which is very little, 22 minutes according to NBA.com.
Yeah, it's a half a game. Yeah.
So I was surprised. It was only 15 possessions last year that they went to it. And it was even the 55 possessions they've ran of the 3 bigs is more than the 48 possessions they did with Cat the year before that. So Rudy, Cat, Nas. I'm saying it's not a lot. And that's why I'm not going to point to the fact as some sort of proof that group has a plus 21.8 net rating.
You're not going to do that.
I'm not going to do that because I don't think that's a good example, but that does a fair example. But the numbers have worked in a small sample with it there. Dude, what? The bottom of the rotation isn't working either here.
Yeah, right.
So I'm just saying, just make sure it's something you get to every game and give it more than like the little 90-second shifts.
Yeah,
as bridges between.
You don't learn anything. You don't learn anything from 90 seconds. I agree with you on that.
It's a good point to hone in on of like, there's still going to be 15 minutes a night that Rudy doesn't play, even if you're doing this and you're playing the 3 bigs together. So what do you do in those 15 minutes a night? And my thing is, don't do Reid and Randle, and then go small in those 15 minutes.
You know this, like you have to be really good defensively, especially on the perimeter if it's Reid and Randle. Well, guess who's not good at perimeter defense? Like Nas Reid. So like at that point, if it's Randle or whatever, if Nas is your interior like freelancing shot blocker, which he is good in rim protection and only that role, then great. But then you better have 4 pretty apt defensive players around Randle or Nas, and automatically, if they're both out there, you do not have that. So like, craft a really defensive lineup around Julius at the 5 or Nas at the 5, and go from there. And
it's just Jaden. It starts with Jaden at the 4.
Yeah,
that's what it would be. And
it probably does include Jalen Clark too. I mean, like it probably just does. If you actually want to have like a good defensive lineup out there.
Yeah, I would.
Dante and Jalen Clark, Jaden, one of those 2 centers, something like that. Yeah. Not centers, forwards. Yeah. And I get that would lead to pretty drastic changes for how the rotation works. Right.
And when guys come out, and you would have to change the rhythm of that, which I don't think is a small thing. I think that that matters, and you would need to get buy-in from Ant. Ant would maybe need to change out of being plays the first quarter, sits out the beginning of the second quarter, plays all of the third quarter, sits out the beginning of the fourth quarter, the normal star rotation. maybe that needs to change to do that. And is that a bridge too far? Does that complicate things? Are there externalities of this that would be costly? I think so. I think so. But to the trial point here, when you're talking about, 6 more weeks to the trade deadline, I think it would be valuable information to sort of accrue that you do not have a sample size of there. And I also think there's a chance it works. And it's just good because Rudy, Julius, Nas are 3 of your 5 best players. I think there would be flaws in that, but there's a chance in this that you go, this group's actually just like a problem for everybody to guard, and it's big and it's physically imposing and it's all of those sort of things that teams are concerned about, that they have to change their rotation to account for the fact that Nas Reed is out there at the 3, and then maybe Jaden's out there at the 2 and Ant's out there at the 1 at times with it. Like that's a funky group. I think it's going to have flaws on the Wolves side, but I think it makes you strain if you're the opponent there too. My biggest thing is I just want to see more of it. And to your point, if you're going to trade for a backup center, you need to make a drastic concession in who and how you're playing your guys so as to be able to plug in backup big X for 15 minutes a night. That role literally doesn't exist right now. So if you're going to go trade for that player at the deadline, which in my opinion is more important to trade for than a backup point guard, I think it's the number one thing for me when we're talking about marginal sort of adding a role player sort of thing. You got to have something in place that allows you to effectively fold in that big that you traded for. And I don't know, maybe I'm missing something else and other people have other ideas. But I've always had a curiosity with this, and I think there's been no time where it's been more justified to explore than now. And I think it's somewhat noteworthy that Finch is exploring it a little bit more, or just going to it a little bit more than he has in previous seasons. Today's show is brought to you by Storyworth Memoirs, and it's been fun to have Storyworth back as a holiday season gift option for your parents or loved ones this holiday season. And it's not too late to pull the trigger on maybe a late gift option if you missed out there. I think if you're around my age, this is a great gift to give your parents, or if you have grandparents. The idea behind Storyworth is uncovering stories you didn't know about your loved one. How it works is each week, Storyworth emails a loved one a memory-provoking question that you get to choose. Questions like, what were your favorite toys as a child? What are you most proud of? All sorts of different types of questions. And all your loved one needs to do is respond to that email with a short story. After a year, Storyworth compiles your loved one's stories and photos into a beautiful keepsake hardcover book. Photos are printed in color, and it will be a treasure that your loved one and you will be able to share and revisit for generations. Customers really do love Storyworth. They printed over 1 million books and preserved 35 million family stories since their founding 13 years ago. They also have over 48,000 5-star reviews on Trustpilot. I used Storyworth this holiday season, and I think you should too. Give your loved ones a unique keepsake you'll all cherish for years. Storyworth Memoirs. Right now, save $10 or more during the holiday sale when you go to storyworth.com/DaneMoore. That's storyworth.com/DaneMoore to save $10 on your order.
I don't disagree in that, like, last year was all about, you got to mesh, do the same thing over and over again, build chemistry, blah, blah, blah. Pretty similar team back this year. Like, we've seen, we have a very, very, very firm understanding of the lineups they tried out now, what they're good at, what they're bad at, where like the biggest holes are. We see that this backup lineup, without Rudy out there, is terrible defensively. It probably would only get picked at worse in like the playoffs. So
I think it would be untenable. I don't think they would.
But it's untenable now.
I think they'd.
So and the only way you're going to not play it is if you have somebody else. Like right now, you don't have an option. If you want to say like, Johan, like he is very, very young, very, very raw. Like, you probably tried to put this in the past, but like, I think you saw more of like the Iowa like experience than I did. I saw a couple clips and that's about it. Like not ready to, let alone play in the NBA, like play in the playoffs, like not ready. So you need an actual solution at that point. And I think it's very helpful if you can experiment prior to making a trade for a backup big, so you can see like, okay, what is that going to look like when this person gets here? What do we have to give up in that trade? Does it make sense if we do that? Or maybe we even get thinner in our guard or our wing or whatever. That also probably means that Nas maybe has to play more wing minutes. Can Nas handle that? Can Nas hold up? Especially if he's playing with Rudy, because playing without Rudy, now all of a sudden perimeter defense gets a lot harder. But if he's playing with Rudy, does that help us out there and help the offense? All of this stuff. And these are all just theoretical, because we don't have any like proof of it. Like you said, 55 possessions this year, barely any in the past. But we've seen it. Like we've seen how it looks all now. And it just seems like there's clearly like a deficiency here, and you might as well experiment to see if you can address it, to give yourself all the information possible as you move forward to determine how the roster needs to be tinkered with. Because I think we all agree, if you actually want to like compete for a championship, it does require some tinkering at this point. I don't think it has to be like these drastic shifts, but you do need like probably an additional piece. And I agree with you, the backup center would be the top of my shopping list in that regard. This is the time. Like you've given everything enough time. And I think you've tried other things, and this feels like a button that you haven't pressed that just makes sense for a variety of reasons. Because you have to give something up in terms of getting a big who would play some minutes. And I know like the cost would be like, 2 second rounders, like teams don't do that very much anymore. And you usually have to give something up salary-wise to make things match, especially in the Wolves predicament. So what are you comfortable giving up? Is it another guard or wing? Because then you'd be like, okay, now Nas has to play more 3. Like, that all factors in. So I think, just more. And that probably does take a dedicated rotation shift to be like, we're going to get to the 6 minutes a game, just to start or whatever, or even more than that. But at least a real chunk,
Yeah. So the Berenger point of it. First, let's say that Finch has said throughout the season, when we've asked him about Berenger, even this Iowa Wolves stint, that he's like, we're still thinking he's somebody who could help us even this season and play at some point this season. We'll see. Maybe that doesn't happen. I say that to note that I don't think they feel that Johan Berenger is that far away from starting to get some minutes in the NBA. Probably not this season, but maybe. And if you were going to start playing Berenger some this season, whose minutes does that come at the cost of? It would need, as the rotation is currently set, it would need to come at the cost of Rudy minutes, Julius minutes, Nas minutes. And as much as we're bagging on the Reid-Randle minutes defensively, like you can't play any of those guys less. Those guys all need to be playing. I oftentimes look at the box score at the end of the game and I go, Nas needs to consistently be playing 5 or 6 more minutes a night. Like, and that's
We've
not
that
happening
for a couple of years now. I mean,
So what happens next year, man? What happens next year when they do want to play Berenger in the rotation? And it is, we're playing him for 15 minutes a night. He's a backup center, plays every single game. Don't you have to then either trade one of Nas, Julius, or Rudy, or play them all at the same time? Like what's the alternative here? How does Johan Berenger, even if we call it next season, how does he play 15 minutes a game when this is the roster that you currently have? And they're going to play Johan Berenger 15 minutes a game at some point. Like they drafted him. They have not yet hit on their 2024 draft picks. They need this 2025 draft pick to be impactful. Like Berenger is going to play at some point. So I don't know how you do that without moving some of Nas's minutes to the 3 next season. I don't see another path. So I'm going to get ahead of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I'm in agreement that it has to be some sample now. And I just think if you don't do it ahead of the trade deadline and then you make a move and then you're like, well, I guess we got to go with this 3 big thing. And it's like, well, it would have been nice to know if it had any legs at all. Or if we got out there, I was like, actually, this is terrible. Because we can all think conceptually it makes sense, but maybe they can run it in practice. I don't know, but who are you running it against in practice that makes any sense at all? You really have to see it on the court against another NBA team. Because there have been other times where I think something would be good and they go to it and I'm like, no, that sucked. 3 games in, it's like, no, it's not an option.
And that could very much be what we end up if they did it this week and we come back next week and gets cooked to be like, okay, maybe not. Maybe this was a bad idea.
But then okay, now we can put a red X through that box. And then if you're like the front office, you go, okay, so that's not an option. But we all agree that we need and whether you can make it happen or not, like a more legitimate backup center. Okay, so now what do we have to do to make sure the minutes work? Does that mean you have to move somebody else? You didn't think you were going to move, whatever. Like, I don't know whether you actually ultimately pulled the trigger on that. You at least know what would probably need to happen if you weren't just going to roll through the rest of the season. But again, like it's all things where it's so tough to educated guesses are a lot better than just random guesses. And right now it feels more like a random guess on Julius, Nas, and Rudy out there together, and there's no reason why. Like, we think we're exposed if it's just we have to play some minutes with just Julius at the 5 with Jaden out there. It's like, well, you already look exposed right now, so just try give yourself some options. I'm with you 100% on this. I'm so past the last year. I had no qualms last year of same lineup, same rotation. Let these guys mesh. We want to be as good as we can by April, May, June. Gotta let these guys play through it. They're all good players. We know that. That made sense to me. Now, like the rotation isn't as sturdy anyway. And then the guys who are together have been together for a long time. So you're in a perfectly fine spot, in my opinion, to toggle some things around.
Yeah. So if they trade for a big, it has to just be like a rental, right? Like
I think so.
That's why I said Robert Williams earlier. It was like $13 million expiring contract, more just like that idea of the type of player, because there's better centers out there, and there's better that they could make a bigger trade to get somebody better than that. But it feels like if you were to get somebody better than that or more than a rental, it would have a pretty strong opportunity cost, right? Of J in the future,
right?
Or would need to altogether replace one of Nas, Julius, or Rudy. You know what I mean? Like, so it has me kind of honing in on that type of role player, type of guy. It's not to say like, I don't know, the Wolves are like in a all-in type of situation. If you got to trade Julius or Nas or Rudy, if you could do it in a way that answers more questions for your team than the status quo does, I'm not saying rule that out, but it seems it would be a lot easier if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to trade one of them, that it would need to be a 15 minutes a night guy. And then if that's the case, I just think it would need to be a rental type of player who's basically J until J is ready to be an impact player next year, or, a year or two down the line.
And I don't think this is a bad time to be anti-rental either. In that, you can be like, oh, not a championship contending team or whatever. It's like, well, when is a better time to get the Thunder than when they just won it last year? Like, we've seen how hard it is to repeat, right? Like, and then Wemby, is that team going to get worse? Like, I don't really think so. You could talk about how your team could grow, but I don't know. Exactly. With this construction, it's like, I don't think they're going to be better in 2 years than they are now. I just don't really think that's true at all. And then you look at the East, and it's not very good. So if you got to the finals, you'd probably be the favorite. There's a lot of these things where it's like, if you wanted a big, not like that wouldn't even be like a huge deal. But if you got a thing where it's like, that only helps us the rest of this year, it's like, fine. Like, I don't, obviously it depends on what the cost is for anything. But I think that all makes sense right now for them, because it very much is. And I've thought this for a little while now, like, if not now, when? And certainly you can have plans and you can change course and guys can develop, and you go, oh, we're actually better in 2026, 27 than you thought. But this seems like an opportune time to take a swing, because it doesn't look a whole lot sunnier down the road here. Not to say it looks gloomy, but does it look brighter? Probably not.
I think for me, man, the last week like crystallized the need for change in the front court. Cat giving them 40 because they don't have anybody to guard a scoring big. They played Milwaukee the next game. Giannis didn't play. He would have given them 40 because it would have been the same thing. They don't have the personnel to be able to guard that type of player with only Rudy. Like, Rudy can't neutralize the Cats, the Giannis's, Jokic. Then Jokic gives you 56. Like, if Giannis was healthy, they give up like 150 points to Cat, Giannis, and Jokic in 3 games.
And like you said, Brooklyn scored 46 points in the paint in the first half.
Like,
and Rudy was like, after that game, Rudy was like, I just didn't play well in that first half. Started to play a little better in the second half. It's like, that's also part of the problem. It's like, it's literally like, hopefully Rudy's good tonight. Like, there's no option for Rudy's not as impactful tonight. That's just not an option for them.
And then it crystallizes even further with the Rudy foul trouble in the Denver game.
Yep.
Like, you play a 7-game series against Denver. How many games is Rudy going to be in foul trouble?
A lot,
and
because he's guarding the guy, the best player in the NBA. You know, like, I don't care if Rudy
or he's coming out. I mean, he wasn't always guarding Jokic, but
yeah.
But
there's more strain on playing off being that secondary guy when the first tier guy is not good at it.
I agree.
You know, like,
I agree. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. It's just more like he's more likely he has to do more when the person on the ball is not as impactful as Cat was in that role. That's just true. So he's probably going to get more foul trouble anyway that way. And then you have to battle Jokic on the boards and all of that. Like, it happens.
And this is what I'm saying. I don't think this is tenable. Like, this is what I'm saying against these type of guys, against when they play Houston and like Şengün. Is this front court rotation going to be tenable, or is he going to give you 40 also? Like, I think so, you know, and it is fine. The Reid-Randle no Gobert lineup has a positive net rating this season. They are outscoring opponents when Rudy's on the bench and Reid and Randle are out there. But that's against teams who do not have front court presences that you're going to see in the playoff setting. And now we're starting to see more of those teams. And I don't think we should brush over that. And I don't think and honestly, man, I don't think the coaching staff will. I think changes are about to start happening, because I think they gave it the 30-game run up to Christmas, and they're smart. Like, they know when adjustments need to happen. And I'm kind of I'm like, if I had to guess, like, I think over the next like 2-3 weeks, it starts being different who plays and how they play, because you need to focus on putting together a style of play and personnel that can compete against the best teams consistently. And right now, the front court, as currently constructed, as it's being utilized, you know, I just think it's bold to think that that's just going to internally develop. This is kind of what it is to me if you keep running it out the way that it's been.
Yeah, I mean, it's just physically, that's just how it works. Like, I mean, we just like what guys are good at, what they're bad at, and who they are physically, like strength, size, all of that. Like, you just see it. Like, you go, I don't think that'll work. Or you'd have to be really scrappy to make that work. And it's like, Nas and Julius aren't scrappy. Like, so there's no like here, they can compensate for that. It's like they can pretty much match up. There are two guys who can match up with who they can match up with. And they can't.
Doesn't it look like they don't want to do this?
Yeah, you know, like I don't disagree with you on that, and we hear that from guys all the time. And to those guys' credit, they've never complained about it, where we've heard other guys complain about it, but it's not rare in the NBA at all to hear the guys that size going, I don't want to guard centers. You know, like, and we haven't heard that. So I give them credit for not, like, you know, for maybe trying to toe the company line, but I agree with you that doesn't look like we got full buy-in of, I'm going to do everything in my power.
Not for 48 minutes.
No, it's oftentimes.
It's like, Julius, do you want me to do? Wants to do it sometimes, and a lot of the times he doesn't want to.
I know Jokic is a different animal. He's the best player in the NBA, but whenever you watch somebody else have to guard Jokic, I don't even feel like we're getting their best effort. Like, when you watch them play, and it's like, that was the resistance. Like, just getting like totally walked down, not even like trying to poke the ball, just like, do your thing, man. Like, that's what it looks like half the time when he's out there. Yeah, and that's when he's dropping 56, 60 or whatever. It's like, Rudy, you watch it and he's trying, and then Jokic just a shot, and I get it. Rudy's more physically like capable of taking that matchup on, but everybody else, it's like, you can say Caruso
he can't guard him either.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. But you can say like, oh, Caruso, he just hacks or whatever. But wouldn't anybody take the Wolves trying to do that over sometimes what you see with these smaller matchups and guys just going like arm on the back, just like walking with him, like, hey, rim's over here, it's this way. You know, like, I didn't.
Britt threw out Jalen Clark. What we were talking about.
So I don't hate that, and that Jalen's probably gonna foul him, but like, man, at least there's less rhythm with that. I know free throws can help guys get in it too, but I mean, it's better than Jalen will at least try. That's when you bring up the effort thing, that's where I see it the most, of like these guys being like, what am I even trying to do here? So I'm not going to. I don't see it a lot of nights, but I've just seen it in the Jokic matchup these last 2 years where it's like, I don't even feel like you are giving an honest effort at doing your best here to slow this matchup down.
Last thing, somewhat related to this, like they play Jokic to beat them with scoring and not assisting. They don't bring hard doubles like a lot of other teams do. And
held him like 15
and honestly, the Wolves have had a lot of he did. But we've talked
about it.
Yes,
obviously. Yes.
It's there and it's what we're talking about with Julius on him, a guy in a disadvantaged situation. Like the Wolves don't bring doubles on that. They don't, and their game plan is like, Julius, put up as much resistance as you can here. If Rudy's out there, we're going to have him lurking to help you. But the hard doubles are not coming. We're not doing that because Jokic will pick that apart. And it was the first game on Christmas where I was like, I don't know, maybe with this personnel, they need to mix that in a little bit. And
especially
it's weird.
Especially, I think you can adjust to personnel too. Like, I'm sorry, like Aaron Gordon's not out there and Cam Johnson's not out there. And I get it. Like Christian Brown's not like this knockdown shooter or whatever, but their roster's a lot worse on that night. So like, I think it's okay to be like, more doubles here. Let's make some of these other guys hit some shots, and maybe they would have done that.
How about when Rudy's in foul trouble? When Rudy's in foul trouble and not on the floor and you can't do the lurking thing, maybe it's some doubles because clearly, I mean, did you just like watch through Jokic's baskets in that game? Like
I didn't watch him back. I didn't watch anything back.
Oh my God, dude. It's no resistance.
That's what I'm saying.
It's no resistance.
Yes.
Like if you watch it in sequence, especially in the moments when Rudy's not out there to help, it's like,
here's what I think, like the Clark thing,
not tenable.
The only time I think like the Clark thing makes sense there is that I think these other guys are like resistant to picking up fouls. Like they're like, I don't want to get fouls here. Because they're used to themselves being in foul trouble, being like a big deal. Julius is like, I can't be in foul trouble. Or I think like a Clark, you could basically
which
say,
I
like,
get a little bit of that. Like,
right.
Yeah.
No, I do. In general, like their whole careers, like we can't have you in foul trouble. Where like a Clark, you'd be like, dude, just go be physical. You're gonna get called for some. We're gonna get away with some. And we'll take that trade off in this matchup and just do your best on it. But be super grabby, aggressive, whatever. And we'll take whatever we do or don't get out of this as just like a try versus some of these, like you said, no resistance baskets, and those are killer.
Don't you feel like Jalen Clark's kind of starting to stink a little bit though?
No, I agree with you on that. But like, but that's one of those like matchup specific things that you can do, that I think you could pull out. Like I think a team could do that with anybody who doesn't play even, and go, you're good at this. Go do this. Go just like be pesky, too aggressive. Go foul every possession and see how many times they call it.
Yeah. I think if this is one of the solutions, this is highlighting the fact.
Yeah, I agree.
That some adjustment needs to happen externally to be able to adjust not just for Jokic, but the level of scorers that are still elite scoring bigs that are one tier down, the Cats, the Şengün's, those type of guys, because
might be why they're built to play the Thunder a little better now. Because that's not Chet's a perimeter player largely. Hartenstein's like a pick and roll, a 8-foot guy. They don't have like that guy where it's like he can just walk you down and score on you. And those are the guys who give the Wolves the most trouble. And they don't have that. So that's why the Wolves match up pretty okay with Oklahoma City.
Wemby too, of like, there's another guy up there that who you're going to play in the playoffs if you're going anywhere. Like, what's the game plan against Wemby?
Right.
And that's if we're coming to this with a lot of the most relevant opponents, and you can feel with pretty good confidence the status quo is not going to be able to manage that, then I don't know. Then it's just it's time for change to be considered there. So I don't know. We'll see. I don't know if the three bigs thing is the right answer to it. I'm just looking for ways to tweak things. You got anything else from the Denver game or Brooklyn game, or ready to wrap it?
No, ready to wrap it. I'm interested to see this road trip. This is like offensive heavy teams. So in these next couple, so just interested to see how that goes. And I also think 2 p.m. is a perfect time for a New Year's Eve game. So I applaud Atlanta for doing that. Because I don't think anybody, I mean, like, I don't think a lot of people, the Wolves, can go to their next destination or whatever. Like, I get it can be like a fun family activity on New Year's Eve or whatever, but I think a lot of people are like, basketball game at 7? Like, that's got to be a low viewership game on the television set. So I think 2 p.m. makes sense in Atlanta. So I'm for that one.
I'm for that too. That'll be fun. And an ad will have already played at some point in this episode, but you can go to Falling Knife, watch that at 2:00 and just go right into their New Year's Eve party. From there, the game will be over at 5. Party doesn't start till 6. Perfect.
There you go.
Perfect. All right, man. Appreciate you doing this. I like doing episodes with you when I just feel like there's stuff to talk through, and when it's not clear, and it isn't clear to me. But I think this Brooklyn game, as great as the Oklahoma City game was, and the fact that they took care of New York, it highlighted that there's still some stuff here, and that's what we're going to do on this show over the course of the season is talk about what's working and talk about what's fundamentally not working. And as I've made clear in the last 2 episodes, I'm on the in the camp that this Reid-Randle thing is fundamentally not going to work as an answer for this team. So we'll see what their adjustments off of that are. That starts tonight against Chicago, and still locking down some times with Britt of when we're going to record tomorrow or after this Chicago game. But yeah, we'll have that for you sometime at the end of 2025, and then we'll keep moving. We'll get back into more of a normal rotation with the show, obviously, after the New Year's and life starts making a little bit more sense. Appreciate Jace coming on. You guys can follow him on Twitter at Jace Frederick. I really do think that if you're spending as much time as you are listening to this show as some of you are, make sure you're reading the beat writers and stuff like that, because so much of what Jace and I just talked about was available to read 2 days ago, and that's the value of writing there. So not just Jace, but Chris and John and everybody else too. Make sure you're subscribed and reading those guys. Pioneer Press for him at Jace Frederick. Until I think Tuesday with Britt. He's Jace. I'm Dane. Peace out.
How I'm feeling, man, I hope it never stop, yeah. Green and hot so you can find me in the crowd, yeah.